You need to know. Call Coin TV's News Call, 778-6000, extension 1010. Anytime, any place, 24 hours a day. Get the latest news updates straight from News Center 6. When it's news you need to know, call News Call, 778-6000, extension 1010. They call it a holy miracle, statues that drink milk on hard copy.
Stunner. The O.J. Simpson trial jury deliberation suddenly ends. The verdict is in, but it won't be revealed until the morning.
This is the CBS Evening News with Dan Rather.
And this is a special Western edition. Good evening. Is O.J. Simpson guilty or not guilty? Millions of Americans are asking the question tonight, but only 12 people in all the world know the answer. The 12 jurors who surprised everyone today by reaching a verdict on the very first official day of deliberations. Their decision will not be announced until tomorrow. Correspondent Bill Whitaker is at the courthouse in Los Angeles tonight. Bill?
Dan, it was a shock to just about everyone. A verdict on the first day of deliberation. Even Judge Ito seemed surprised. He said because not all the attorneys were here today, he would wait until tomorrow, 10 o'clock Pacific time, before reading the verdict. A verdict reached after less than 4 hours of deliberation and only one question from the jury.
All right, and
late this morning, the jurors asked Judge Ito if they could have the testimony of limo driver Alan Park read back to them. Testimony prosecutors had called the defining moment in the case.
Question. Good morning, Mr. Park. Answer. Good morning.
For almost an hour, the court reporter read the transcript of Park's March 28th testimony, how he arrived at Simpson's house about 10:22 the night of the murders, repeatedly buzzed the gate but got no answer. Then, about a half hour later, at 10:54, saw a large African-American enter the house. Prosecutors contend that was Simpson. Moments earlier, he saw Cato Kalin walk by.
A white male walked from behind the house area on a pathway, and he had a flashlight in his hand.
Then, after a short recess, the jury came back in.
That you buzzed 3 times and indicated that after receiving the verdict forms that you have reached a verdict in this case. Is that correct, Madam Foreman?
The announcement took the courtroom and apparently O.J. Simpson by complete surprise. The reaction swift and varied. Limo driver Alan Park, whose testimony jurors asked to hear again, said he didn't know what such a swift verdict meant.
I sure hope nobody makes judgment on me that it was me that, if he is guilty, that I put him away. I hope nobody thinks that. I just happened to be at the right place at the wrong time.
After so many surprises in this trial, prosecutor Christopher Darden said late today, nothing shocks me anymore. Outside court, defense attorney Carl Douglas said, surprise doesn't begin to describe my feelings. I'm stunned at the speed. Linda Johnson Phillips was in court at least 40 times. She was in again today to support O.J. Simpson.
But he didn't look like he was worried about anything. But the jurors did not look at him. I can honestly say that. That's what scares me.
And in this city on the edge, police are taking precautions.
We'll go to a full tactical alert in the morning that will allow us to hold a morning watch over those officers who will be available to us. But I need to emphasize that we don't anticipate any problems.
Now, after 9 months of trial and more than 120 witnesses, the common thinking was that this jury would take at least a week to go over all this evidence. Now, tonight is O.J. Simpson's 472nd night in jail. Tomorrow, he returns to the courtroom to find out whether this jury is going to send him on to spend more time in prison or will send him home. Dan?
Bill Whitaker in Los Angeles. If you're one of the many people trying to guess what the jury's verdict may be, here are the options. Number 1, of course, Simpson could be found not guilty of the murders of Nicole Brown Simpson and Ronald Goldman, and he thus would not be tried again. Option 2, the worst-case scenario for Simpson, guilty of 2 counts of first-degree premeditated murder. That carries a mandatory life sentence without parole. Option 3, guilty on 1 count of first-degree murder and 1 count of second-degree murder. That would be life in prison without parole. Option 4, guilty on 2 counts of second-degree murder. That would mean 15 years to life. If Simpson were convicted of one of the murders and acquitted in the other, the most he could get is 15 years to life. Among those waiting anxiously for the verdict, 2 members of the Simpson defense team, F. Lee Bailey and appeals specialist Alan Dershowitz.
I'm the perennial pessimist, being an appellate lawyer, so I always operate on the assumption at every stage that it can go against our position, but I have no information about that.
But your feeling is...
I have no feeling. Just that I'm going to spend tonight operating on the assumption that I still may have work to do.
No jury has ever convicted an innocent man this quickly.
That is a statement of confidence, supreme confidence, certainly under the circumstances.
Nobody predicted the jury would reach a verdict so quickly. What that means will be debated all over the country tonight, including right here. Joining us now are CBS News legal consultants. Former prosecutor Laurie Levinson is in Los Angeles. Defense attorney Jerry Lefcourt and jury expert Ann Cole join me here in New York. Laurie Levinson, did the jury give any possible indication of which way this verdict might go by, number one, the testimony it asked to be read out of the transcript?
I think they did. You know, the first belief was that if the jury came back quickly, that would probably be a defense verdict, that the jurors believed Johnny Cochran and were going to send a message to the LAPD. But instead, the question the jurors came back was for the reread of Alan Park's testimony. And he is so key to the prosecution. One, because he went by O.J.'s house at about 10:40 and did not see O.J.'s Bronco. And second, because he saw Cato Kalin come out about 10:52, which would mean that's when he heard the knocks on the wall, and that's when O.J. got back, leaving plenty of time for him to have committed the murder. So if you're going to read the tea leaves, that may be a very good sign for the prosecution.
Now, you were inside the courtroom. Did you see the jury look at O.J. Simpson? What did they do?
You know, I saw the jury, and they looked very relaxed. They were looking all around, but they were not looking at O.J. Simpson. And a lot of people think that that is a good sign for the prosecutors, that they do not want to confront O.J. because they have a verdict he won't like.
Jerry Lefcourt, very few people in America have faced this kind of situation. What you read, number one, the jurors didn't look at O.J. Simpson, but they were smiling and seemed relaxed. What do you make of it?
Well, usually when a jury comes back and they have a defendant's verdict, somebody on the jury looks at the defendant or the defense lawyer and gives some eye contact, some acknowledgement that it's going to be all right. The fact that they didn't look at him or refused to look at him, really, because he's sitting right across from them, indicates it's something bad. And the testimony that they wanted, they didn't want to hear the cross-examination. They only wanted to hear the prosecution side. They only wanted to hear the direct. And this was damning testimony. So if I'm a defense lawyer, I am very, very nervous that it's a conviction on the top count, first-degree murder.
Top jury consultant, Ms. Cole, what think you?
I think if I were part of the defense team, I wouldn't be getting very much sleep tonight. I think that the chances are that they will come back with a guilty verdict on 2 first-degree murders.
Laurie Levinson, what happened to all the predictions that, well, at least the jury was going to take a long time, and the best bet, a lot of people thought, was a hung jury?
Well, you know, Dan, this is the O.J. Simpson case, and what we've learned to expect is the unexpected. It looks like these jurors, after sitting through 8-9 months of testimony, had made up their minds before they ever got into the jury room, and all that it took was talking to each other to realize they all had the same opinion.
Now, Jerry Lefcourt, you heard F. Lee Bailey said no jury has ever convicted an innocent man so quickly, and he was coming on confident, at least with his words.
Well, you know, I understand where he's coming from. I mean, a quick verdict like that in a case like this, particularly after the passionate call by Johnny Cochran for them to send a message, could very well be that this is a message of an acquittal to the LAPD to end your racist practices. That is a possibility, and that's what he's hoping. But all the signs don't point that way.
And Cole, one last checkoff. Consistently, you have reminded us, listen, O.J. Simpson could be acquitted in this case. But your feeling tonight is?
I think he's going to be convicted, but I've known to be wrong. It's possible that there's an acquittal.
Thank you all very much. This much we know. Nobody really knows. We can all guess, we can all speculate, but nobody really knows except the jury. Stay with us for continuing coverage of the Simpson verdict. In a moment, we'll take you back to the night of the crime.
There are a lot of women out there that become pregnant each year. While I was pregnant, I could feel that the lap and shoulder belt were properly positioned, but I didn't know if that would protect the baby in a car crash. GM is working on the development of the pregnant dummy. This dummy's going to be a mom. I think we need a better understanding, and the best way is to develop a prototype and test it. I think that pregnancy is a very happy time in people's lives. It's my goal as a mother to protect them.
Please pass the all fruit.
Polaner all fruit is real fruit, sweetened only with fruit juice.
Would you please pass the jelly?
You'll call it delicious, you'll call it remarkable, but please don't dare call it jelly.
I'm 62. Can I still help prevent osteoporosis?
It's never too late for Caltrate.
Caltrate Plus has the extra calcium you need, plus 6 nutrients essential for healthy bones. Whatever your age.
It's never too late for Caltrate.
As we reported, the testimony the jury asked to review today, the only testimony it really asked to hear, was from limousine driver Alan Park. That was an important element in the prosecution's case against O.J. Simpson. How important? To show you, CBS News has prepared a timeline of the night of the murders, the known facts, and the disputed testimony. At 5 p.m., O.J. Simpson and his ex-wife Nicole Brown separately attend a dance recital for their daughter Sydney. After the recital ends at about 7 p.m., Simpson goes home to his Rockingham estate, while Nicole and some family members go to dinner at Mezzaluna, a Los Angeles restaurant near Nicole's home. Nicole and her family finish sometime between 8:30 and 9 p.m. and leave the restaurant. On the way home, Nicole and her children stop for ice cream at a Ben & Jerry's store. Around 9:10 p.m., according to O.J. Simpson and house guest Cato Kalin, they leave the estate to go to a McDonald's. They return, they say, at 9:35 and separate. No one testifies where Simpson spends the next 85 minutes from 9:35 to 11 p.m. The prosecution says it's an hour and a half of opportunity during which O.J. Simpson murdered Nicole Brown Simpson and Ronald Goldman. The defense says even if no one saw him during those 85 minutes, O.J. was at home and is not guilty of the murders. No matter where O.J. was, everyone agrees Nicole Brown Simpson calls the Mezzaluna restaurant at 9:45 to ask her friend, waiter Ronald Goldman, to drop off a pair of eyeglasses her mother left behind. Goldman leaves the restaurant at about 9:50. At 10:02, during the time Simpson says he was at home, calls are made from his cellular telephone to girlfriend Paula Barbieri. This phone is usually kept in Simpson's white Ford Bronco. At about 10:15, or shortly thereafter, several of Nicole Brown Simpson's neighbors say they hear a barking, wailing dog. The prosecution maintains the barking occurs around the time the murders take place. But defense attorneys dispute this time frame. Defense witnesses testify they walked past the murder scene about 10 minutes later at about 10:25 p.m. and neither see nor hear a barking dog. Another defense witness in the area says he hears men arguing at about 10:40. Unfortunately for the defense, he also says that minutes later, he sees a white vehicle speeding away. Back at Simpson's house, limousine driver Alan Park arrives at 10:22 to take Simpson to the airport. At 10:40, Park starts buzzing the intercom. No answer. About 10:45, Cato Kalin testifies he hears thumps on the south wall of his room. 10:55, driver Park says he sees a black person enter the front door of the house, and seconds later, Park says Simpson answers the intercom and says he has overslept. Park pulls into the driveway, loads up the bags, and takes Simpson to the airport at about 11:10. Simpson arrives at the airport just in time to make the 11:45 flight to Chicago. Midnight, neighbor Shukru Bostepi discovers Nicole's body just inside the gate to her condominium. 12:13 a.m., police arrive and discover a second body, that of Ron Goldman. In investigating the crime scene, the police find a left-handed leather glove, a knit cap, and a trail of blood leading toward the back gate of Nicole Brown Simpson's condominium. Shortly after 5 in the morning, 4 detectives go to O.J. Simpson's residence. They receive no response when they buzz the intercom. One of the policemen, Detective Mark Furman, testifies he sees what appear to be bloodstains on a white Bronco parked outside the estate. About 5:35 a.m., Furman jumps the fence to open the gate for other officers. Once on the grounds, the detectives wake up both Cato Kalin and Simpson's daughter, Arnell. 6:05 a.m., the police call Simpson in Chicago to notify him of the murders. Around 6:15 a.m., according to Detective Furman's testimony, he makes a crucial and ultimately controversial discovery at the side of the guest wing Cato Kalin was living in. A blood-stained right-handed glove that appears to match the one found at the murder scene. At about 6:45 a.m., another Los Angeles detective, Philip Van Etter, says he discovers what he thinks are blood drops on the driveway. Van Etter declares the estate a crime scene. Around noon, O.J. Simpson arrives home from Chicago and agrees to go to police headquarters, where he voluntarily makes a statement and gives a sample of his blood. We'll have more on the Simpson trial later in this broadcast, and please mark that we will have special live coverage of the verdict beginning tomorrow morning at 9 Pacific time. Up next tonight on this broadcast, airports nationwide are now on guard against possible terrorist attacks as world leaders converge on the United States.
Maytag repairmen own the finest tools. And sometimes, they even get to use them. Maytag, the dependability people.
That was your first day with Jimmy. You remember that?
All right, boys. Here it is. All right.
Mrs. Smith's pies, the taste that takes you home.
She said, while you're out, pick up some Correctol. But that one was cheaper.
How was he to know?
For 40 years, women have trusted Correctol for gentle, overnight relief.
Well, I got the right kind of motor oil.
That he knows.
Correctol, the one more women trust.
In business, you can't always count on having enough time. But you can count on AT&T, because only AT&T guarantees you a competitive price. Our 1-800-COMPARE Center will give you an immediate side-by-side price comparison. And we're so sure that our prices are competitive that if you don't agree, we'll give you 1 month's worth of long distance up to $500. These days, you can't count on much, but you can count on AT&T for the life of your business.
He's coming to America,
I just want to meet him. This is like a dream come true.
and millions are thrilled.
I can't wait. I can't wait for him to come.
It's the toughest ticket in town.
It's very hard. You can't get them.
48 Hours is your ticket for a behind-the-scenes look at the Pope's historic visit. An all-new 48 Hours, Thursday.
Federal prosecutors are being praised today for winning an important verdict over the weekend, one that some believe is a major victory in the war against terrorism. A militant Egyptian cleric and 9 of his followers were found guilty yesterday of plotting a campaign of bombings against major public buildings in New York City. Today, the U.S. government is confronting the threat of a new wave of attacks. Correspondent Jim Stewart has the story.
It's going to be a worrisome week for bodyguards. In Washington, Egyptian President Hosni Mubarak, the survivor of several assassination tries, is a guest at Blair House. At the UN, 140 world leaders are gathering for its 50th anniversary. Wednesday, the Pope arrives, right on the heels of guilty verdicts for 10 militant Muslims planning a bombing campaign. Add it all up, and the FBI doesn't like the answer.
If you're asking, do we expect there be further terrorist acts committed against citizens of the United States? Unfortunately, the answer to that question is yes.
The result has been an unprecedented security crackdown from the White House to every commercial airport in the nation.
I need to see a passport, driver's license, or major credit card, please.
In Los Angeles, some flights were delayed today as guards more closely checked identification and baggage. While in New York, the Holland Tunnel and other landmark targets have received extra scrutiny. The Pope's visit has federal bodyguards especially worried. Philippine police uncovered a plot to kill the pontiff during a visit there last January, and one of the men believed responsible, Ramzi Youssef, is facing a separate trial in the World Trade Center bombing. With so many world figures visiting, the FBI is afraid of terrorist retaliation.
It certainly raises the stakes tremendously, in our opinion.
But no matter how much the government raises its guard here, there's very little it can do about Americans overseas. And it is there, the experts worry, that terrorists will most likely seek their revenge. Jim Stewart, CBS News, Washington.
On Capitol Hill, Democrats showed their hand today on a plan to overhaul Medicare. Also today, they turned their backs and walked out, in some cases literally, on the Republican proposals. Correspondent Linda Douglas has our report.
Seniors in this country.
The marble halls of Congress were filled with the sounds of name-calling as Democrats' attacks on the Republican Medicare plan reached a fever pitch. No insult was deemed out of bounds.
Seniors in this country believe that Republicans want to save Medicare as much as blacks in Los Angeles believe that Detective Furman is going to treat them fairly.
The gentleman's words will be stricken from the record.
But House Republicans, holding one of their few formal meetings on the Medicare legislation, claim seniors actually like their plan. Just look at the mail.
Nearly 100,000 letters.
Mr. Chairman, regular order and everything else. I've never seen such hijinks in all of my life.
Frustrated, Democrats stormed out, charging Republicans want to cut $270 billion in Medicare spending to pay for a tax cut. Plus, they charged some of the Republicans' mail is phony.
This individual died July 20th, but yet they say he's behind the Republican plan.
Democratic senators unveiled their own Medicare plan, which cuts only $89 billion from spending. Republican leaders called that irresponsible and promised not to use Medicare savings to pay for a tax cut.
I think people want us to be fair, and they don't want us to take money out of seniors' pockets to give to somebody, some rich person in a tax cut, and that's not going to happen.
Dole and other Republicans have raised questions about their plan to cut taxes by nearly $750 billion. But key Republicans said today they are sticking by that goal, though they are scrambling to find a way to reach it. Linda Douglas, CBS News, Capitol Hill.
Arthritis pain, it's a part of my life. That's why I keep Advil close by. It's gentler on my stomach than aspirin. Just one works as well as 2 regular Tylenol. And give me Advil any day over Aleve. With that, if your pain comes back, it could be hours before you can take more. I don't have that long wait with Advil.
Advil works at the site of minor arthritis pain, stopping it where it starts.
Nothing's proven to work better or last longer than Advil. Nothing.
Advanced medicine for pain.
When the Sullivan sisters decided to conquer the Meteora, they left their walking shoes at home. Because now, Easy Spirit walking shoe cushioning and support comes in a fabulous new package. At 500 steps and 2,000 feet above ground, the last thing you want to think about is your feet. Easy Spirit. Inside's our walking shoe, outside's the whole world.
Walk on!
Tonight at Red Lobster.
We're gonna ooh yeah.
We're gonna yeah. With our 2 dozen shrimp, just $8.99. Roasted shrimp with fresh veggies, plus scampi and fried shrimp. Our 2 dozen shrimp, just $8.99.
Red Lobster tonight.
We like prunes. We adore prunes. So sweet and tender. I see. It's a matter of taste. I love when you're flexible.
California prunes. Let your mouth make your mind up.
Nobody does it like you, the way that you do. Nobody's got the power to please me.
The new Hoover Steam Vac Deluxe with a 5-brush agitator. It washes and extracts dirt like a whole crew of professionals. So you know, there's really no comparison.
Nobody does it like you, Hoover. Nobody does it like you.
He's coming to America.
I just want to meet him. This is like a dream come true.
I can't wait. And 48 Hours is your ticket for a behind-the-scenes look at the Pope's historic visit, Thursday.
Federal health officials are out today with a new warning for children and their parents. A serious health problem has doubled over the past 30 years, and especially in the past decade. It is the problem of overweight children. Health correspondent Dr. Bob Arnott has the big picture.
More than 3 decades ago, President Kennedy was so concerned by reports that America's kids were out of shape and overweight that he launched a program to make children more physically fit. His message seems to have been forgotten. Today, a disturbing new report shows that since the 1960s, the number of overweight 6 to 17-year-olds has more than doubled.
The startling part about it is the fact that it had been stable for so long, and then we've seen a fairly sudden increase.
The study looked at weights for teens and children for 5 different periods since 1963. Although the number of overweight children has increased steadily, the biggest jump came in the last decade. The problem appears to be the conveniences of modern life. Fast food, computers, video games, TV. Combine that with little exercise, and the result is nearly 5 million overweight kids.
But public health officials are loath to recommend dieting as a solution, fearing that it could interfere with growth or further increase the incidence of eating disorders.
Today's overweight child is also more likely to become an overweight adult.
The seeds of heart disease are planted in childhood. It's atherosclerosis, hardening of the arteries, begins in childhood, accelerates at adolescence, and develops throughout adulthood.
So 9-year-old Andy Geib is starting early. 23 pounds overweight. He's been exercising and trying to avoid junk food since he was 2. But it's not much fun.
I see like other kids eating it, and it's like no fair. They get to eat and I don't.
But his efforts may pay off in a healthier, longer life. Dr. Bob Arnott, CBS News, New York.
We'll be back with late developments and more analysis on today's top story, the jury's yet to be announced verdict in the O.J. Simpson trial. That just up next.
If you've been drinking Ensure, there's a little something you should know. Sustacal has more protein, less fat, and about twice as much calcium. No, Sustacal can't add years to your life, but it might help add life to your years.
In the spirit of Italian generosity, the Olive Garden offers you the never-ending pasta bowl, just $6.95. Choose your favorite from our special Olive Garden pasta menu. Then mangia. Enjoy as many free refills as you want. Choose from spaghetti and meat sauce, creamy fettuccine Alfredo, and many more delicious never-ending Olive Garden favorites with free soup or salad and breadsticks. The never-ending pasta bowl, only $6.95 for a short time at the Olive Garden, where generosity is a way of life.
Who wants to think about light bladder protection all the time? I don't. Because now, Stay Free Serenity has new extra curve pads with Dry Layer Plus to keep them much drier than ordinary maxis, so I feel drier. Try new extra curve pads, only from Stay Free Serenity.
I'm fainting. Walter the dentist is coming over and I got gas. So I take my Lanta Gas Release gel caps. My Lanta Gas has the best and only medicine for gas relief in an advanced gel cap. Now, I'm my scintillating self again.
Thanks to Sprint Business, now the world is flat. Introducing flat rate pricing for small businesses on all your long distance, even for Sprint 800 service. Enhanced facts and cellular long distance. One low flat rate for everything, all over the country, so you know just what you're paying.
Now that's simple.
Call now for flat rate pricing. 1-800-827-3700. Call Sprint Business.
O.J. Simpson could be spending his final night in prison or possibly the rest of his life there. The jury verdict will be announced tomorrow. Tonight, a late comment from Simpson's lead attorney, Johnny Cochran, Jr.
Well, it's a very, very quick and kind of surprising verdict at this point. I have no inside information, but I'm cautiously optimistic.
What does an early verdict mean for you as far as you're concerned?
Well, generally, an early verdict means generally it's good for the defense because the jurors have not gone through a lot of testimony. They haven't considered whether it's first or second degree. They haven't done a lot of things, you know. In this instance, it's, of course, difficult, however, because, you know, I wasn't in court today, so I haven't seen them or whatever, so I'll have to wait until tomorrow.
What does...
And Cochran said that he made nothing one way or the other about the fact that the jury didn't look at Simpson as he came in to say it had a verdict. CBS News will bring you the Simpson verdict live tomorrow. We'll be on the air at 9 a.m. Pacific time. The verdict is to be announced at 10. We'll be on the air at 9 a.m. Of course, there'll be coverage before that on CBS this morning. Then tomorrow night, a 1-hour-long special report on the Simpson verdict, whatever it is, including reaction and analysis. That'll be at 8 p.m. Pacific time tomorrow night. Until our coverage of the Simpson verdict beginning at 9 tomorrow, Dan Rather reporting for this special Western edition of the CBS Evening News. Good night.